A visitor? I'm coming. Hello there. How can I help you? It's not often I get visitors out here, especially not this late into the evening. You're a brave one, coming this deep into the forest past sunset. The one and only. I am Lunafe, the most powerful witch of the forest. Well, the only witch of the forest, but don't let that deceive you. What's your name? Oh, it's nice to meet you. But how can I help you? You don't look like someone who's gotten lost in the forest and just happened to stumble across my cabin. You seem a bit shy, but sure. I offer my magic as a service. Not many from your town take me up on it. They seem to have their suspicions about me. A lone witch deep in the forest. If you told anyone that you were coming to see me, or asked anyone for directions, then I'm sure you heard the rumors of a dark and evil witch who lures her victims out into the forest, far from the town, where they won't be heard. But no, I'm just a girl who likes the quiet and independence of living in the forest. I grow, gather, or hunt my own food, and while away my days relaxing and studying magic, and helping out the occasional traveler who comes to visit. But before we get too engrossed in whatever magic you wish to ask of me, are you in any particular hurry this evening? Perfect. Then would you join me for some tea? I also have some fresh apple bread as well as some lemon tarts. I'm sure you're tired from walking all this way, so let's take a break. Enjoy some delicious treats, and we can discuss whatever it is that brought you here. Is that okay? Nonsense. If you're uncomfortable with it, then that's one thing, but it's been hmm, probably a year and a half since anybody's come by, so if you're willing, I won't turn down the company. What do you say? Ah, perfect. Come with me into the back room, though. Be careful not to bump into anything. Well, when you live this far into the forest, expecting regular visitors would be a bit of a futile exercise, even without the rumors, but I don't really mind, I guess. It's quiet out here, and I appreciate that. Go ahead and take a seat, one of the sofas. They're super comfy. That's one of the magics I'm most proud of, but let's see, let's get that fire going. I'm a witch, remember? I do know how to light a fire the normal way, not magically way as well, which has come in handy the 2 or 3 times over the years where I exhausted all my mana, but I'm not that great at it. Doing with it magic is way easier for me. But either way, that should be nice and warm and cozy, Get the water boiling. Just wait there, and I'll go grab the food, okay? I see you found my cat Mia. Did she come over to you like that? Well, she seems pretty comfortable. She must really like you. I'm surprised. No, no, no. Not that you're a bad person or that she shouldn't like you, of course. I didn't mean like that. I mean, it's more as like she's only a couple of years old, and both the other times that someone has come by since I've had her, she didn't really like having new people here. She just got really skittish and avoided them, even avoided me, and mostly just hid in one of the classes for the rest of the day, even part of the next day. But she really seems to like you. She got all curled up in your lap immediately. Almost no hesitation. Um, she can be pretty affectionate like this, yeah, but it's also kind of hit or miss. Either way, she seems to want you to pet her, so aren't you lucky? Anyway, here you go. A few different teas to choose from, pick whichever you like, and of course, some treats. Go on, no need to be shy, try them. I'm glad that I made these lemon tarts. It's been quite a while, but the perfect mix of sour and sweet, it just pairs so nicely with the tea. There you go. What do you think? How is it? I'm glad. It's hard to get lemons out here in the middle of forest, so we had to make do. But, well, with a greenhouse and a bit of magic, you'll be surprised what you can grow. There's also the magic of making things taste like other things, but, that's a little bit trickier. So, since I doubt you came all this way into the forest for some lemon tarts, as delicious as they might be, what did bring you out here? What magic would you like me to perform for you? Hmm? I can't do whatever it is if you won't tell me. I'm pretty good at magic, but mind reading is beyond the scope of anything I ever learned. Well, it's theoretically possible, at least, in some particular contexts and manifestations, but outside of some specific sorts of laboratory tests, I don't know of examples of mind reading being done. Hmm. So, well, embarrassing or not, I can't do it if you don't know what it is. And given that you came all the way to ask me, I suspect it's something you'd actually quite like me to do. Hmm? Not many braid the forest and the rumors of the evil witch for a mere idle whim. Though, if you did decide that, in fact, you do not wish to tell me, then that's also perfectly alright. Just when or if you're ready. A cat? You want to become a cat? That's certainly not what I was expecting. No, I'm not judging you or anything. Cats are obviously wonderful creatures, just when I can guess from the entire magical corpus, transfiguration isn't generally what first comes to mind. Um, Particularly in the context of ordinary folk hiring a witch, the most common desires are both health, love, wealth, or success, which is hard for us to do much about, and beauty, but usually a more limited way than full cross species transmutation. Hmm. So, I was expecting something like a love potion or a medicine for an otherwise incurable disease or injury. You assume too far and underestimate the great witch Luna. Of course, I can do the transfiguration you desire. Of course. I see the surprise in your eyes. That conveys that you thought this is a long shot. But yes, I can do that for you. However, before I do that, may I ask you a few questions? What makes you want to become a cat? I mean, that's not a trivial matter to undertake, and I hate for you to do something drastic on something of a whim. Hmm. Well, I suppose that's understandable. Wait here a moment. I need to consult one of my spellbooks to ensure I perform the magic correctly. Would hate to accidentally turn you into a squirrel, or worse. Alright, now let's see. This is sort of the de facto authority on most transfiguration, so it should be in here somewhere. Ah, yes. Both inanimate and animate transfigurations, though. Can't really mix them without a lot of careful planning and intricate soul manipulation, which obviously comes with great risks. Inanimate to inanimate is the easiest since it doesn't need to concern itself with that. Then animate to inanimate, which does have some soul manipulation, but it's pretty manageable for a skilled witch. Of course, I'm a skilled witch. I told you, I'm the most powerful witch in the forest. That's true. There's not any competition for that title, but as some Constellation, I am certified under the Compact of Mages as W2M3, meaning that I passed the second class Witchcraft exam and the third class General Magecraft exam. Most majors are fourth or fifth class, and I finished top rank for this region amongst those taking the second class Witchcraft exam. Thank you. Honestly, it's mostly the fact that I've studied magic since, well, basically as long as I can remember. So, with a couple of decades of experience, I'd like to think you're in good hands. Now, I found it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. First step is to determine your, well, the book calls it aptitude, but that's an outdated perspective. It's more correct to call it affinity. It's basically your sensitivity to magic, especially this kind of magic, and we'll use that to calibrate the transfiguration. If you're a high affinity, then it'd be easy to accidentally overdo it. If you're at low affinity, then it'd be easy to only partially transfigure you. Neither of which would be good. But it's easy to test for and easy to calibrate and compensate for. Yeah. What I'm going to do is basically just channel some mana through your body and observe how it flows. How quickly or smoothly, how much resistance there is, whether there's any irregularities, that sort of thing. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's a basic idea. You'll be able to feel it, yeah, though it shouldn't be unpleasant. In fact, if you have a high affinity, it'll likely feel really warm and gentle. That sort of warmth you might feel in your stomach or your chest after drinking warm tea. If you have a low affinity, honestly, it probably won't feel like very much at all. Maybe just a bit of pushing or prodding. Yeah, you should be just fine. Do I have your consent to go forward with this? Alright then. Stand up for me. Yes, just like that. And let me take your hands. Nice and gentle. It's a lot easier to channel mana through direct skin to skin contact. As I said, it shouldn't be an issue, but if this ends up being painful or otherwise unpleasant, for any reason, just say something or squeeze my hands, and I'll stop, okay? Any questions before I start? Alright then. 3, 2, 1. How does it feel? Good? Good. And no? I see. Honestly, you have a really high magical affinity. Mm-hmm. I don't have the means to determine it precisely. There are tools for that, but I don't have any of them. But it seems higher than many fourth or fifth class mages, and for someone with no magical training, that's very high. In fact, I think it's high enough for me to do a bit more sophisticated transfiguration for you than you originally asked for. Well, you said you wanted to become a cat, right? I'm pretty sure I know which of these you meant, but I was going to ask, as clarification, whether you meant an actual full blooded cat like Mia here, or a cat human hybrid, a Neko, which should leave you mostly humanoid and able to speak, but shorter and with feline traits. Some fur, claws, sharper teeth, cat ears, a tail, likely some behavioral traits like purring, etc. Mm-hmm. That's what I figured. There's nothing wrong with that, of course, but most people would choose the second. And they're different invocations, which is why I need to ask. But the thing is, I think your affinity is high enough that I can do both for you. Well, I think I can give you both forms and the ability to switch between them freely. I wouldn't actually have been able to do a full cat form and a full human form because of the necessary soul manipulations, but I suspect that might not be an issue for you. From my perspective, that's strictly an improvement to being locked to just full cat form, but what do you think? So, what we do is attune your soul to both of those forms, making it simple to switch between them. Might think about it as two valleys in a mountain range. There's low points that are easy to slide into, and you'll have enough magical affinity that you'll basically be able to cast a spell to switch forms. That's not exactly right, but it's close. Either way, you'll be able to reflectively and instinctively do it, even without practice. As I said, you'll be able to freely switch between them, but there are some limitations. Well, I'll be able to tune your soul and thus, by extension, your physical body, but I can't attune anything outside of that. The most potent example is that your clothes are not part of the transformation, so changing from Neko form to full cat form will make for a cat in a pile of clothes on the floor. Switching the other way will result in a Neko without any clothes, so while you can change freely, it's probably best to exercise some care in deciding when and where to do so. It's a bit unfortunate and inconvenient, but in this context, there's not really anything feasible to mitigate that. But since you were originally asking for a full cat form anyway, it might not be too much of an issue for you. Yeah, Neko to cats is fine, except that you end up with your clothes in a pile, and that'd be hard to do something with as a cat. But yeah, the other direction is more the issue. Yeah, that's what you want me to do, right? Sure. Let me just double check how exactly this needs to work. Okay, alright. Yeah, we're going to need to make a potion for you to drink, and I'll need to form a couple of invoctions. Not trivial, but nothing too crazy. Looks like I even already have the potion ingredients on hand, so that's incredibly convenient. Do you want to do this now? No, not at all. I don't mind. It sounds kind of fun. This is not technically the point of no return, but just if you had any lingering hesitations or if there's things you need to attend to beforehand, now will be a good time. Are you sure? All right. Then let's make this potion happen then. Come with me. Over here, over here. Just be careful not to touch anything unless I tell you. Here we are. This cauldron is where I make my various potions, and that more open space on the side of the room is where I perform a lot of my spell work, as well as some reading and studying as I got my desk over there. But for now, some potions can take a while, a few hours to a few days or even longer. But this one will actually take just a couple minutes. Really not too bad. It is. The time it takes for a potion is rooted in a couple of different factors, but the most influential one is the affinity or attunement of the different ingredients, as that affects how quickly they can harmonize and facilitate their mana transfer, as well as complete their ordinary chemical reactions as well. Sort of how sodium metal will violently explode in water, but baking soda and vinegar reach in a much more controlled manner. In practice, most potions take like 3 to 10 minutes. It's just that the long, slow ones are more famous, or, well, infamous, as the case may be. Boring, usually. A couple have more intricate developments, but most of them are set up the solution, then wait a long time. Yeah, though that's not the case here. Alright, I was making a few potions earlier this evening, so the cauldron is already prepped, so we're just going to go ahead and start putting in our ingredients. In addition to the general cauldron base, which is water, plus a handful of catalysts that we use for almost all potions and the like, this potion in particular requires some catnip, part of a tiger striped pufferfish. We'll be using these dried scales, this powder, and really does look like glitter, doesn't it? Anyway, I guess it's true, but this powder, called sparkling powder, though known as shiny powder, is a special type of magical catalyst that useful in a lot of high-level potions. Mm-hmm. And the last ingredient we'll need is it's what we call Sinjin clay. Yeah, I had this magical clay prepped out as a base, but we'll need just a couple drops of your blood to add to it. It's set up to be able to absorb that, and it'll help attune the potion to you, and it'll also act as a core for my later imboction to bind to. Is that okay? Alright, let's go ahead and do that first then, if you're okay with it, of course. Here, you can hold the clay with one hand, and I have this little needle thing. Always forget its proper name that I'll use. And yes, it's been sanitized. When you're ready, just take a deep breath, and I'll give your ring finger on their hand a little prick. It'll hurt just a little bit, but it'll just be one time. You can let the clay absorb some of your blood, and I also have this bandage for you. Yes, it does have hearts on it. Don't judge me. Is that all okay? Then, whenever you're ready. There you go. There you go. You okay? Good. I hate having to do that, but that's the part over. As I said, just put a couple drops worth of blood on the clay, and here, I'll trade you. Bandage for clay. Alright. This can go in here now. What is it? Honestly, I don't really know what sort of flavor the potion will have, but let's see. Catnip is kind of mint-like, so that's probably going to be a dominant flavor. If I had to guess, it probably won't be the best tasting thing you ever had, but I suspect it'll be alright. Okay, while the clay is sort of stewing in the cauldron, I'm going to go ahead and prep the other ingredients. The recipe is scaled for 100 grams of clay, but mine are prepped at 250 grams, so 45 grams of catnip becomes 90 plus 22 and a half, which is 112 and a half. 15 grams of puffer fish becomes 30 plus 7 and a half, or 37 and a half. And 40 grams of sparkling powder becomes 80 plus 20, or 100. No, it'll be fine. Scaling a recipe up or down like that within reason, anyway, doesn't really have too much effect, aside from maybe ending up with a little bit or more or less of your potion. It's only when you scale down really far that you start to interfere with the ingredients' ability to harmonize, and scaling up too far can interfere with how they flow and can also overwhelm the base catalyst. But you have to scale up by a factor of at least 10 or 15 to start running into that. Scaling by 2.5 is fine. No, not at all. In theory, I could have used only 2/5 of the clay and kept the original amounts instead, but I've had issues with that. Specifically, the clay doesn't do well when it gets split up like that. Well, it has to do with the way the clay is made. In a very loose sense, you could think of it as alive. So like cutting it like that would be a major injury, which is going to affect how it interacts with other ingredients. It could theoretically be avoided by taking some extra precautions when making it, but it makes it a lot more work to make, and I just don't see the point. When you just add more of the other ingredients to compensate. Oh, that's a clever question. I could just make them smaller, but joining them has the same sort of problem of reduced efficiency. Even if it's not as extreme, and for me, the general use case for the magical clay requires 250 grams. So it doesn't make sense for me to optimize for less than 1% of the time I need something else, you know? As much as there's magic involved, witchcraft is also very much a science. Yeah, and that means accounting for a lot of different factors as you practice it. Mm-hmm. No, not really, though. That's a good question. Witchcraft is, among some other things, primarily a mix of pure magic and chemistry, whereas magecraft is primarily a mix of pure magic and physics. Though it's a fair bit more complicated than that, and pure magic is also a technical term, but witchcraft and magecraft, along with a handful of others, are usually taught in a magical sciences department at magic academies. hmm Exactly, though. There's also plenty of overlap too. Anyways, all the ingredients are in, so for now it's just a matter of stirring and waiting for all of them to harmonize. That'll only take a couple moments, so just a bit more patience, kitten. I'm going to prepare for the necessary infections as well. Yeah, that's fine. Feel free to look around, just as I said earlier. Be careful not to touch anything. I have a few ingredients in here that can be dangerous if you're not careful, and others that are very carefully arranged. Good. Okay, the potion should be done now. Yeah, let me get it out of the cauldron and into a glass for you to drink. Here you go. But before you drink that, this is the point of no return. Once you drink it, even if I don't perform the actions, there's no going back. And actually, it'll be far worse if I don't perform the actions because you'll end up with things in weird and between states, which would definitely have some negative consequences. My point is, I'm not trying to scare you or even dissuade you. I just want to make sure. Are you sure that you want this? Very well. Then you may drink the potion. How is it? That's fair. I'm glad it wasn't too bad, though. It'll take a bit of time to take effect. Though my actions will mostly take care of that, but you probably won't feel much until then. Maybe a bit here and there, so don't worry. It'll do its thing. Now, may I begin the action? Well, from your perspective, it won't involve much at all. I'm going to hold your hands again, so that I can more easily conduct mana through you. And I'll cast a few spells. They'll take care of orchestrating transformation, okay? Then, your hands, please. Alright. This will probably feel mostly the same as when I tested your affinity earlier, but a little bit different. The transformation begins to take hold. It'll be directing you into a hybrid Neko form first, particularly because it'll be a smaller transformation. So it'll give you a less extreme change to experience for the first time, okay? Are you ready? And just as the soul is a manifestation of the self, what defines us as our self, yet do we change as we go. And just as we grow outside of our control, by factors of age or circumstance, yet do we change also by intention. And just as we are delicate in our balance, yet are we resilient and adaptable. The one before me, illuminated in mana, bears a desire and attention to change, to grow into true self, yet unfound in the current. As is contained in the power of the soul, as aided and directed by our magic, this change shall transpire. Behold. There you go. You're now in your Neko form. How do you feel? That's understandable. You are inhabiting a fairly different body than you were just a few seconds ago. We do need to hurry and perform the second invocation as well. The one that'll grant you the full cat form as well. But do you first wish to look in the mirror? Alright. You probably saw it in your momentary exploration of the interior earlier, but there's a mirror in that corner over there. Shall we? Oh, be careful. You're shorter now, so your pants are too long. Let me roll them up just a bit so you're a little less likely to trip over them. There, that should be better. What do you think? Yes, that's you. I know it's probably a bit weird to see yourself like that, a meter and a half tall, maybe even a bit less. These cute cat ears. It's good to know that you can feel them now properly, and that sounds like a real mule, so if that's your natural response in this form, then it seems like it worked pretty well. What about your tail? It's probably caught in your pants, but can you pull it out? There you go. That looks nice and soft. Can you move it? Does it feel okay? Good. Though, yeah, it's probably going to take a bit of time to get used to all the changes. Are you ready for the second part? The part where you become a full-fledged cat, or, well, you'll retain your mind and your soul just in a cat's body and with some of the associated instincts. Alright, then come back over to the cauldron with me. Yeah, you'll need to drink just a little bit more, about half of that first amount, which is obviously still in your system as well. But to manifest two separate forms, well, you simply need a bit of a higher dose than to manifest just one. So, here you go. Drink up. Alright, and same as before, I'll take your hands and pass mine through you for the second invocation. Is that okay? Um, as I hinted at earlier, it should definitely feel similar, though because this is a more drastic transformation, it'll likely feel more intense. Though again, while it might be a little bit unpleasant, it shouldn't be painful per se. And when you switch between the two forms later, there won't be an issue. A better analogy than what I gave you earlier would be that it's sort of like us forming molds for the shape of your soul, but later, once the molds have already been formed, it's a lot easier and actually quite straightforward to merely adopt the form of the mold. Then, are you ready? Then, and just as the soul is the manifestation of the self, what defines us as ourself, yet do we change as we grow? And just as we grow outside of our control by factors as age or circumstance, yet do we change also by intention. And just as we delicate in our balance, yet are we resilient and adaptable. The one before me, illuminated in mana, bears the desire and intention to change, to grow into a true self not fully contained in the current, as it contained in the power of the soul, as aided and directed by our magic. This change to uncover a co-equal self, a co-equal mold held and retained by concurrent desire and intention, shall transpire. Behold. Aw, aren't you a cute little kitty like that? And a cute mouth you have. It's like you can't speak normally, huh? I guess that makes sense. Do you feel okay? That's good. Do you mind if I pick you up so we can go over there and you can look in the mirror? Yeah, that's okay. I know that probably seems a bit strange. You can obviously go over there on your own. I'm just worried that. Yeah, just like that. I was worried that you wouldn't be able to see since the mirror doesn't come down far enough. Would you like me to pick you up so you can see, or would you like me to bring my desk chair over so you can stand on it? Yes, I can pick you up. Nice and gentle, I promise. Alright, there you go. Just a witch holding a little kitty. Yeah, do you like that? That's good. I'm glad you like it. Oh, you're so soft. Nestling against my neck like that. This your way of saying thank you? You're very welcome. I do enjoy the solitary peace and quiet of my life here in the forest, but I also enjoy being able to use my magic to help others. Especially when it's interesting magic that I have little or no excuse to practice otherwise. It's been at least a few years since I've done any soul manipulation magic, and this is the first time I've been able to do a two-form transformation. So, thank you, I suppose. How do you feel? Everything feel okay? Can you move everything? I know you're walking just fine a moment ago, and obviously your meowing seems fine. You seem to hear and understand me, but how about your ears and tail? All four parts? Are you sore or numb anywhere? Good, good. Might be a good idea to see a vet just in case, though, logistically, but it is definitely reassuring that you feel okay on top of what I can tell. I imagine the pets and ear scritches feel even better like this. I'm gonna take those purrs as a yes. There is one other important thing to test, and then one thing at the moment that I'm just really curious about. Okay? Alright. The first of those is making sure that you can properly transition between the two forms at will. Sure. Since your original request was to become a cat, then I imagine not being particularly torn up if you were stuck in this form. That said, because of the fact that your soul should be attuned to the two forms, it would actually be pretty bad if you couldn't switch, even if you didn't want to. It'd be a bit like if your knee hurt and you decided it wasn't anything of an issue because you can walk well enough and you don't want to run a marathon. Fair enough. Alright, then I'm going to set you down and turn around. Your clothes are over there, remember? So, I'm gonna set you down, turn around, and just want you to change back and forth a couple times. Look in the mirror and make sure everything that's supposed to change does, that everything feels okay. Can you do that for me? Okay. There you go. And now you have the chair you can climb on to see. I'm gonna turn around now, so whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and just let me know when you're done, okay? Everything is okay, I take it? Good. And I see you ended up in your cat form. Though, I wonder how much of that is the fact that your clothes no longer fit. Would you like me to do something about that? Well, I don't know if I can shrink them enough for them to properly fit your Neko form, but I can at least make them a little bit smaller if you like. No, you don't seem particularly interested one way or the other. Perhaps we can figure that out later. On that note, though, if I may ask, what now? What do you tend to do now that you're a cat or a Neko? Can't imagine that the townsfolk where you're from would be particularly keen on what we've done. Not that I'm saying that it was a bad idea or that we shouldn't have done it, but I'm curious. What do you do from here? Hmm? It's hard to understand your meowing. Oh, is that your plan? Just live as an ordinary house cat back in your town? Somehow, I feel like I ought not be surprised by that. Do you already have some place in mind? A family member, friend, acquaintance who's looking to take in a cat? No? Just planning to be a stray and hope for the best? That seems at least a bit risky and all, but guaranteed to be a pretty unpleasant in the short term, no? I suppose you have come to terms with that prospect already if you went to these lengths to make it happen. That or you're so desperate in your aims that you didn't care. Hey, how about this? What if you were to stay here? I'm certainly not going to issue with that. We done so you'd be safe here, and besides, I like cats. You could be my little familiar. To be fair, it's not an entirely selfless offer. I've been thinking about taking on an apprentice for some time, ever since one of my mage friends suggested it to me. Probably almost a year ago now, so you'd be helping me with my magic. We already established via your affinity that you have the potential for it. Plus, there aren't many of your kind, as you are now, two-form creatures, as there's very little overlap between those who have potential mages, for example, and those who have the desire. As I'm sure you well understand, so I've an interest in keeping an eye on you for research purposes, of course. And to the earlier point, that's even more true if you develop your magic. What relevant differences do you have between your two forms? Is one of them, for one reason or another, better tuned to the flow of magic? What sort of other effects are there for you and other guards? So many interesting questions. In addition, I I must also admit that on a personal level, even from the mere hour or so since we met, I have found you particularly pleasant and intriguing, and would like to get to know you better. Even as I value my relatively solitary existence out here, it does sometimes get rather lonely, and to have someone so catch my eye is a chance I would loathe to squander without so much as offering. Though I also wish to respect your own decision, and if you believe that you would rather something else, then by all means pursue that. I am but a humble witch who lives in the forest, and you owe me no duty, loyalty, or recompense. However, given the late hour, I will insist that you rest here tonight, as even with a feline's eye, I don't feel especially comfortable with you traveling through the forest with nothing but the crescent moon to guide your way. And then you can make your decision tomorrow, after you've also had the opportunity to sleep on it. Is that okay? You're welcome. Now, I'm someone who tends to go to sleep at least relatively early, so I would normally be getting ready for bed soon anyway. And as you're not used to being magic, I'm sure the transformation has taken their toll on you, even as excited as you might be about them, so come with me, and I'll show you around a bit more. As you likely gathered, this cabin is comfortable, but not especially large, so you've already seen a fair bit of it's by virtue of walking between the front door, the back room, where we had our tea and treats, and my cauldron over here. But if you come down this hallway, in addition to the front room, which is great for relaxing, there's also this room, which is a combination between a study and a lounge. On this side of the hallway is the washroom and the bedroom. You might have to do some diplomacy with Mia, but if you rather the litter box, then that's in the corner of the back room, I suppose. As I live by myself, I've only this one bed, though it's plenty large for us to share with you in either that or your Neko form. I don't snore, though I can be a bit cuddly in my sleep. Always curled up with the plushie, but if you're more comfortable, there are a few chairs or sofas around they can sleep on. And if you decide to stay long term, then we can figure out a permanent solution. Any of those options, or a bed for you, again, whatever you'd be most comfortable with. The bed? Sure. Though, Mia may come in here too. Sometimes she sleeps in here, sometimes she doesn't, so. I'm gonna put your clothes on the dresser over there, as well as a set of my PJs. There's also going to be two big, but if you decide you want to change into your Neko form in the middle of the night and want them, you're welcome to wear them. Do you need anything before bed? Water? Anything else? Alright, I'm gonna use the washroom real quick and change into my PJs. Okay? Okay. Time to get nice and comfortable. Sleep well. We can figure things out tomorrow. Good night, little kitty.